Hi, welcome to the Rittners Floral School in Boston, Mass. I'm Dr. Steve Rittner, and it's a pleasure to welcome you into one of our classrooms today. We've got a great class planned for you. I know you guys are going to enjoy it. Well, it's Boston, and we just had our first major snowstorm of the year, lots and lots of snow. So what do you do if you're in Boston and we get lots of snow? You make a snowman, of course, and that's exactly what we're going to do here today. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. To make our snowman, we're going to use some interesting things. We're going to be using, this is called a standing sphere, a standing sphere. It essentially is a piece of foam that has a flat bottom to it, and it can sit very, very nicely on its own. If I didn't have this standing sphere, it's an 8-inch one, I could take another sphere and then just cut the bottom flat and use it that way. This is made to be used like you see it here, but I'm going to stick it into another container because I know that as I'm making this thing, a certain amount of water is going to fall off of it. And also I want to have the ability of adding water later and having a base in it in order to be able to do that. Now, the main flower that we're going to be using today to make our snowman is going to be our pom-pom. These are cushion palms. They're cushion palms. Florists have a love-hate relationship with this flower. We love it. It lasts very, very well. We dislike it because it lasts so very, very well. It's an everyday flower, it's a workhorse flower, and it's perfect for this kind of design. The nice thing about our cushion palm, besides the fact that they're very durable, is the fact that we have laterals. In other words, when I say laterals, I mean that we have a lot of stems on one stem, a lot of flowers on one stem. And that means we can get great coverage out of it. And what I'm going to do with my cushion palms is I'm going to take these and I'm just going to simply cut them, leaving maybe, an inch, inch and a half maybe of stem on here. The best way to work with these is to make sure that you have really conditioned these well prior to use. In other words, make sure that these flowers have a good drink of water before you do this. And I think you'll find that you'll get great coverage. Now I'm going to take these, and making this thing is not all that difficult. It's a little tedious because it's basically a lot of repetitive motion on this. What I'm going to do is I'm taking my palms and I'm very, very carefully sticking them into my base, working them around in a circle. So I think you're going to find the construction on this is going to be fairly easy. It's not a hard design to do. It just takes a while to do it and you have to be patient. And I'm just taking these and working them around in a circle, working them around my base. And that's really all there is to this. You're going to find that if you're patient, you're going to come up with something that is really neat doing this particular design. So I'm just taking it and turning it around. And you'll see as I go along, my viewer, because I'm dealing with foam and because it's saturated with water, the flowers will get a good drink. And that's really what we want. And I'm just going around in a circle, going all the way around here, placing my flowers as I go, keeping it as even as I can. So I'm just taking this and working it around, adding my flowers in a circle. And that's what the basis of this snowman is going to be all about. So I'm just going to take it, work it around, and create a circle using my palms. So I think, my viewer, you're going to find this one is going to be pretty easy to do. It'll take a while to do, but it'll be a fairly easy one. So notice I made a circle. Now at this point, I'm going to continue the process. I'm going to make a second circle, working my palms around here. And so I'm just going to continue the process of adding my flowers, working a second circle on this. Now there are other ways we could do one of these things. We don't necessarily have to use foam spheres, but I think foam spheres make our life a whole lot easier when we're doing this kind of thing. They actually make the process much, much easier than taking, say, a rectangular piece of foam and trying to shape it. But you could do it that way too. So notice that what I'm doing here is I'm working around in a circle. I think I mentioned, my viewer, that I'm using an 8-inch standing sphere. They do come, these foam spheres do come both standing as well as in complete circular versions, complete spherical versions in different sizes. And you, my viewer, may want to experiment to see what sizes work for you, because the particular sizes that you pick will influence how big your design ultimately is going to be. So I'm just taking this and I'm working it around, coming around in a circle using my palms. I've already pre-cut some of these, obviously, so that'll make the process a little bit faster by doing it this way. And essentially I made one circle, then I made a second circle on top of the first. Now I'm going to take another circle and do the same thing again. In other words, I am just kind of making repetitive circles using my flowers and working them going around. So I have one here, I've got a second one here, a third one here. In other words, I'm just going around in a circle each time, adding my materials to this. So I think, my viewer, you're going to find this one is one of these designs that I wouldn't call hard, I would call tedious, because you have to be patient in terms of going through essentially a repetitive motion over and over again on it. But I think that the results will be well worth it. I think you're going to enjoy where this leads to. And I'm just working it all the way around, going around in a complete circle. My circles get a little bit smaller, you'll notice, as we go along on this. And I'm just going to take this, working it around towards the back as well. This is a design that will have a front side as opposed to a back side, but I think you'll find, my viewer, that gradually we will show more interest in the front side. I'm going to do another row. In other words, I've got 1, 2, 3. I'm just continuing the process of working upwards on our foam with our cushion palms. And this really will give us a very, very neat effect as we work along on this. So I'm taking this, working it around in a circle, trying to keep them as even as possible. And I'm working all the way around on this. You do want to be gentle with your flowers. If you bump them too much, they will tend sometimes to shed a petal or two. So I am trying to be as gentle as I can be, considering the fact that I'm taking these things and poking them in. But I think you can see, my viewer, this is coming out very, very nicely for me. I'm going to continue with another circle. Gives a pretty effect, I think. And you can see how this is just coming along very, very nicely for us. Now, when you look at it, if I angle it slightly, you will see some bare foam still showing. And I'm at the point now where I want to start adding my second section on my little snow person. And to do that, I'm going to take a smaller sphere. This one is an 8-inch standing sphere. This is about a 4.5-inch sphere. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 4.5-inch sphere, I'm going to place it on top, and I'm going to take a couple of picks and then just pick it right through so that this will stay in place for me. And by doing it that way, I've got a nice second level on this. And then I'm going to continue the same process of adding some of my flowers coming around on the second level. However, I think, my viewer, that rather than you watching me do another one like this, why don't we just stop and fast forward a little bit so that you can see how this will develop as we add our flowers to our second level. Well, my viewer, you can see I've taken my second sphere, I placed it here, and then I continued the process, placing one more circle here, a second circle here, and if I angle it slightly, you can kind of see the foam peeking through. I'm going to add a couple more flowers on this, working my way around on this second level. It's essentially the same process as what we did on the first sphere. The only difference is we're dealing with a little smaller area that we're working in now. So I'm just gradually working more of my flowers around here on my second sphere that I happen to have here, which is a smaller sphere. So I'm placing them coming around here. Now at this point, I'm going to add a third sphere to it. And in adding my third sphere to it, I'm not going to use the smaller picks. I'm going to actually use some bigger garden variety picks. And I'm going to place this right here. And then I'm going to poke it right down through it, because this way it will give me stability both with going through from the top one here through the second one and into the third one. So by doing it, working it through like this, I'm poking these two sticks essentially all the way through from the top through the middle to the bottom one, and that's going to strengthen the entire construction. Now I have these here. I will cut these down a little bit, but I'm not going to remove them yet totally, because there's going to be a use for this later, as you'll notice very, very shortly. So I'm going to cut this a little bit shorter, and now I'm going to continue the process. I'm going to take a few more pieces of my flowers, work them coming around here, like so, and work it around over on this side too. So it's going to continue the process here, and then I'm going to continue adding on the top. Once again, I think you get the idea of how I'm doing it, so I'm going to fast forward this a little bit so that you, my viewer, can see how this will look when I get most of the flowers in place around the top sphere. You can see, my viewer, that at this point I've taken my third sphere that I placed here, worked some flowers around here, 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 and I'm almost through. I'm almost at the top, so I'm going to continue the process of adding some flowers around here. So I think you can see that this is coming out very, very nicely for me. And I'm just going to continue that process of filling in. I'm going around in a circle here with my flowers. And although you don't see it, there is still a bald spot on the top. And so I'm going to work a few of my flowers in here flat on the top of my piece so that we can fill in very, very nicely and come up with something that's really spherical. And now we've got most of the body in place. Now at this point, we want to decorate our little friend and make him feel a little bit more like a snow person, don't we? So let's add a few things to it. Well, first of all, we could use a few eyes. And so you can do all kinds of things as far as eyes are concerned. You can use googly eyes if you like. Those work well. I'm using a few pipe cleaners or chenille stems to come up with my eyes on my little friend. I have them attached to picks. And then, of course, what do we use for a nose? Well, we perennially like to use carrots. I have only a short little carrot here, so I've got it on a little pick. But if we had a longer carrot, that would be fine. And then for the mouth, we could use all kinds of things. We could, again, use chenille stems if we wanted to come up with the mouth. I'm going to do a little bit different approach on that. I'm going to take some of my little Christmas balls, my millimeter balls, which I happen to have on hand, and I'm going to use those. And I've got a few of my millimeter balls here. I've attached them to picks so that they'll be a little bit more sturdy. And I'm going to take my millimeter balls on picks and I'm going to work them around so I can create a little mouth. Now these are glass balls, so I'm being very careful in terms of handling them because you always have to show respect with glass. So I'm taking my little millimeter balls and working them in to come up with our little friend. This is the fun part, really, because you can go in so many different directions when it comes to decorating one of these things. Really, it depends on what your particular tastes are and what you like. So we could stop at this point if we wanted to. But wait, there's more. Let's play with it a little bit more. Our friend is certainly out there in the cold, and we don't want our friend to be freezing, so let's add a little scarf. And I'm taking a little bit of ribbon to create a scarf for our friend. Now I'm using some ribbon to create a little scarf. However, we could do all kinds of things. If you like making bows, for example, you could make a little bow tie and add a little bow tie in here if you like. So you do have various options as far as that's concerned. We can leave our friend the way you see it here in terms of our snow person is kind of sitting there and he looks like a typical snow person that you see made out of snow. Or we could decorate him a little bit. For example, we could take some raffia. And this is one reason why I left a couple of picks coming through on the top, because that'll make it a little bit easier to secure this. We could use some raffia. We can give our little friend a haircut, depending upon how much hair we want to leave on our person, our snow person. So we could add some hair to it, or we could add a hat, and there's all kinds of stuff you can do as far as hats are concerned. I'm going to take, this is, of course, we're in Boston, so I'm going to take something that's a little bit more local, but you can pick whatever you happen to like as far as your choice of hats are concerned. And we'll give them a little haircut here. So we can add a little hat to it. We also can add a couple of arms. You know Dr. Steve loves branchy stuff. And so I am going to work some branchy stuff for arms on either side. In other words, this is the part of the design which really gets to be a little more fun because we can give our little character personality. And of course, there's always the possibility of little buttons coming down. And again, I'm using some millimeter balls that I've attached to some picks so that I can add a few buttons coming down our friend's front so that adds a little bit more to our friend's personality and character. So what do you think, my viewer? A snowman. It's fun. It's not hard to do. I think that the thing that you'll find is it does tend to eat up a lot of material. I estimate 3 to 4 bunches of palms, maybe more depending upon how many laterals you have. It does take a little patience because you're basically making a circle after a circle after a circle, but it certainly is an easy thing to do. Quick, easy, and fun. The Rittner Floral School way.